Welcome to another episode of Slay with me, Leigh M. Clark. I am the founder and curator of Slay the USA, a book series that focuses on powerful women who are leaving their mark. Women like Arsemiris Galva, who's out here in Chicago. She's part of the Slaying Chicago book, where she literally slayed her chapter. She's also a faith and health mental health coach. So she helps with mindset around spirituality and just general like humanity, I would say. Everything, anybody experiencing anything from the joy to the sorrow. Our Smith is really good at really getting in there and helping. She also hosts amazing retreats that people have transformative breakthroughs. Welcome to the show, and thank you for being here. Anything I missed on your intro, and you want to tell them a little bit about your chapter too?
Yeah, no, I think you covered it all. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here and just share and talk. I love doing podcasts 'cause it's an opportunity for everyone to kind of just be invited into our world. Thank you for asking me about my part in the chapter. A little bit about my chapter. I think that that's where I got the chapter reflects raw and real. I don't think that there was anything that was left unspoken of. A little bit of that is that in that chapter, it's interesting. I was going through grief during that time. I had lost my father. So writing this chapter was a little hard because I had to visit a hard time in my life, which was going through my divorce and going through all that yucky stuff. But I think the beauty of this chapter is really focusing on resilience. We all go through stuff. We all go through hardship, adversities, challenges, and curveballs that life throws us. But I think the point in my chapter was and is what are we going to use that hardship? In my case, it was going through that divorce and going through a narcissistic relationship and abuse. It was okay, I'm going through all these things, but what am I going to do with this? How would I move forward? And it's interesting because in that midst of my darkness, where I felt, and I share this in the chapter, I'm like, I'm kind of worthless at this point. I felt like there was nothing for me to give. I get this moment where it's like I'm talking to God, and it's placed in my heart to start these getaways. And it's like specific on how to do it. And I've noticed with other of the ladies that have spoken, it's almost like you get direct instructions on what's your next, especially in that moment of hardship. And I think that although we're going through hardship, it is in that space where we're the most obedient because
Mhm.
I didn't question, I didn't negotiate, I just went right in. And we were just talking about, our getaways and our getaways experiences. And that's when I hosted my first getaway in Miami, which
Amazing.
it was one of those experiences that you step in faith and you hope for the best. And so, yeah, it's been a journey. I'm in my, what is it, sixth, going into my seventh getaway. So I know there was like one of those, what people call like a divine appointment that was birthed out of such a hard time in life, which I dive into in the chapter. Yeah.
No, it's beautiful. And I love what you shared and how you allow other people to feel seen, valued, and heard by being vulnerable and by
Mhm.
giving parts of yourself. And to your point, like that whole expression, when life brings you to your knees, pray. And I think that that's really like the testament. And your test become your testimony, right? So that there's that too, especially when you're taking people on a transformative breakthrough that came at the feet of a transformative breakthrough. That's like
Yeah.
symbiosis, right? That's where things just are happening, the way they ought to. Well, we're gonna play 10 ways to slay. So I'm gonna ask you 5 questions. You're gonna ask me 5 questions.
Okay.
Hopefully give the listeners and audience watching some helpful tips, practical life advice, or just fun stories. Who knows what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you first. Speaking of these, we kind of just talked about this, but what is that turning point that said this is exactly what I need to go into? Like, what was your faith forward mental health,
Mm,
especially like combining faith and mental health, which we talked offline about. There's this preconceived notion that if you're of faith and if you have godliness within you, you will never have fear, you will never have anxiety, you will never
mhm.
have depression because you know you're chosen, you're a child of God. There's also something called physiological, like states of being, like hormones, like food
Yeah.
intake, like all of the things. So to act as if we don't have to like
Mhm.
be whole, we are whole, we are God's creation, we are whole. But within those things, there are those moments where faith, like I say it this way, faith over fear. Fear still
Mhm.
exists. You cannot be somebody who's faithful and they think fear does not exist. That's
Right.
what we talk about all the time. There is duality. So what is
Mhm.
that moment that really, like, where were you at mentally?
Uh, Oh my goodness. So I was around 6 months pregnant. Um, Aside from my baby growing, I also had a cyst growing in me, which it's like both baby and cyst are fighting against each other, which causes a lot of body hardship, right? There were moments where I was in bed. All in all, I remember one day where mentally, I mean, I was at my brink. I had never felt that way. Um, but it was being built up because of everything that I was going through in the marriage. At this point, I was separated and there was just a lot of battles happening. And I remember that day I was invited into a conference at the church that I was attending. And as I'm sitting there, I'm like, I'm hearing all this greatness, but I'm also going through an internal battle, and
Mm,
it's my mental health and trying to figure out how is this baby going to survive? How am I going to survive? I was at a loss. And when I got home, I remember laying in bed, and I mean, I'm going through both pains, baby, cyst, but my brain, the best way that I could describe my mental health state at that moment was imagine like a rubber band being pulled all the way at his wits.
mm,
I had to make a prayer at that moment. I was like, God, at this point, it's not even about this man, it's about my health and it's about my son's life and him actually making it through. I literally said, if this is what you want for me, and when I say this, I meant this marriage, then fine. Give me the strength. Because at this point, I was like, I feel like I'm losing my mind, like literally losing my mind. And well, that was the day that everything ended in my marriage, literally within hours. It was like that prayer was said, everything ended. And then that's when the evolution just started of, I feel like it was a moment where God just started downloading things on in me. And the idea of starting these getaways, and it was specific, it was for women that needed healing. It was a way for women to unplug away from all the busyness and the chaos and our city lives and going away into the tropics and just healing spiritually and with our mental health. So bridging both together because it's always been seen as two things are apart. And you said it perfectly, right? If we're a child of God, then we don't go through all this mess. But we're
mhm.
still living in this earth. And if we really have read that one book, you'll see that mental health is all over it. So it is present. But
Yeah,
our faith, our spirituality is what helps sustain us and moving forward in navigating mental health. So one can't be without the other.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
So that was kind of like my journey of coming into this space of getaways of mental health, faith in mental health, and just bridging that bridge, if that makes sense. I always call it's the intersection of mental health and faith. And that's where we meet. We meet in different destinations around the world, but we make room and we hold space for one another to dive into the ugly part of our lives, heal from it, while also growing and learning about other different destinations that look very different to what we're used to and accustomed. So I do
Yeah,
feel like even through culture, through traveling, there is so much healing in that space.
it's a good place to get out of your element and to find a new you for sure.
Yeah, yeah,
You got for me.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So one of the questions that I had for you, let me see, I have it here. What has resilience, because we talk about resilience all throughout our book in different ways, right? What has resilience looked like in your own healing journey?
Well, it's not ironic, it's life. It's interesting that you talk about, life bringing you to your knees and then being pulled into this calling. When I had originally put the Slay the USA series together, I was planning to move out of my city. I was like
Mm,
casually dating someone and I was going to move out of my city. And so I wanted to get to know the women in my town. So I get them all involved in this project. It's gonna be great. We're gonna have brunch, blah, 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 blah. Then the person I'm seeing breaks my nose in 6 places, like a week before the
mm,
brunch. So yeah. So then I'm like sitting with this, what do I do? Like, do I
mm,
hide? Do I pretend it's not happening? Do I like get it just for schedule? That's, like just for schedule, whatever. And it was like real, like a come to Jesus moment where you're like, okay, if I'm asking these women to show up authentically and vulnerably,
mm,
real, and now I'm known as the kindness lady, and like now the kindness lady just got her face broken.
mm,
I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna tell them. Like so I said, everybody wear a hat, come to the event and just show up. And so they did. And when they did, I told them what had happened. And so many women had come up and said that had happened to them or they were experiencing similar. And
Mm,
it just started a conversation that it was really not the weak ones that it happened to. Very strong women often find themselves in that position because we don't know when to stop talking sometimes. And we can, like, use your mouth, be strong, be strong. But that doesn't always jive with weak people. So anyway, long story short, I was a mess when I started the series, 100% a mess, like a mess.
mm,
How did I get there? I was at the rock bottom of love, like never knew how to be on my own, decided to be on my own, like went out there, was like not going to be with anyone unless it was a magical experience, which it is. Thank God I have a fantastic partner now. I
mm,
wasn't going to settle for less. I wasn't, not after that. But yeah, in that moment, I was pulled forward by this project, and this project's the only thing that kept me going. I think I had a nervous breakdown. I mean, people watched it happen on Facebook. You can go back and look. I went to Paris. People are like, didn't know if you're going to make it through Paris. I went by myself that summer.
mm,
I mean, it was just wild. But again, I just kept one foot in front of the next. And if my story mattered, if my story helped somebody else, if my story empowered somebody, then keep going. And then it went to Tampa. And then we went on from Tampa to Nashville, to Atlanta, to Chicago, to Boston, to
mm,
Vegas, to, because there's a lot of me's out there. There's a lot of people who are
mm,
trying their best to like do something positive and leave a mark. And unfortunately, sometimes we end up with scars along the way.
yeah.
But again, it's not the definition of my story. It's not a definition of the series, but it's just something that like life sometimes be lifing. And to your point before we were talking offline is, sometimes grief comes in different ways. And sometimes it's grieving your own self-abandonment.
Mm,
Like
mhm.
the ways that you've betrayed yourself to love other people. Like
Yes.
screw all that. Like screw all that. When you're in real love, like there's no need to betray yourself to be there.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
so that's, I think, the grief is the person we didn't protect, the inner child we didn't hug, whatever kind of like whatever
Yeah.
we're into in terms of like healing. But yeah, I'm with you. I mean, certainly came to this series very, very much a mess, and like it's built me. These women have built me.
Mm,
I've poured into them, they've poured into me, and you're an example of that. With that, I'm like, what do you do? Because like we talked again offline, like and we just spoke on it, the mental health and faith. Like, what do you do to weave both clinical health tools and faith-based like insights into the way that you coach people?
yeah. That's a good question because it's like a couple, right? You have both individuals and both have different dynamics. And here we have mental health, here we have faith, bridging both together. And by bridging both together, it's like, let's say with mental health, most recently, we touched on, and I'll give an example of our previous getaway. We touched on attachments, we touched on emotional intelligence, we touched on feminine energy, and then we talked a lot on grounding. Those are four things that we covered at this getaway, all related to mental health. With the spiritual aspect, you could even bring in the grounding, prayer, worship, and moments of silence, meditation. Here are another four concepts. And so it's creating a space where both could come in, right? And it's all bridging you back to your creator, it's bridging you back to yourself. And you made a good point on being vulnerable. So, oh my goodness, this is a topic on its own. In business, we often want to portray our best
Mm,
at our highest point. In these spaces, mental health and faith, we don't need your best. We just need
mm,
you and who you are. That's where I say the biggest breakthrough, the biggest opportunities. I mean, so much comes out of that space, and you just shared. You
mhm.
chose to just be honest.
You
And
know,
And so in mental health, even when I'm doing therapy, I tell my clients, the more honest, authentic, and vulnerable you are in this space, the more you're going to get. It's not even about me.
in life. In life. I mean, honestly, mistakes are not mistakes, they're relatable. Like
Exactly.
like that moment in that room with the brunch, like they can relate, they understand. It doesn't make me weak. We have this like
Mhm.
persona that we think we need to create that the most you can hope is somebody's going to be jealous. I mean, we're not supermen,
Yes.
right? So like just the fact that we have moments that like, we don't always choose the best.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so in spirituality, it's about being on it. It's about coming forward with all of it, not leaving anything out. And so like I talk a lot about attachments. We all see our patterns. We choose to deny them, we choose to ignore them, but you see it in every partner that you're with. It's not until you get like smacked in the face and you have like this aha moment where God is like shaking you and you're just like, all right, I'm paying attention now because this one just hurt. Going back to your point, even my point, this experience just hurt. It hurt so bad that it cut me, whether spiritually, physically, mentally, whatever way. Everybody's pain is going to look very different, but it's in that moment where I say we tend to say, you know what, I'm done. I need to truly heal. And in order for you to truly heal and dive into topics such as attachments, emotional intelligence,
Mm-hmm.
or even your past traumas, you have to come to a point where you're like, I surrender
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just going to finally work through. And so in my spaces, working with both aspects of mental health and faith, it's almost like if I were to keep one out, is doing a disadvantage to the person that I'm helping. You need both. We're spiritual beings. There's no way I can go about mental health without including your spiritual aspect. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Yeah, 100%. That's part of who you are.
And so I have a question for you. So when life forces us to pause, what have you learned about the power of slowing down and allowing yourself to heal?
I'm like such a New Yorker that I'm like, no, see, whatever. I just move forward, move forward, move forward. I think, the only way to the other side is through, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
think in each thing, and no matter what conflict or trauma or anything that arises in life, it's what can I learn from that? How can I grow from that? And how can I use that to help someone else? That's me, and that's what slowing down means. Slowing down, like people talk a lot about oh God, what is it called?
Mm-hmm.
Mindfulness.
Mm-hmm.
All it means is being directive about your thoughts. That's mindfulness. Because for a bunch of times I was like, what is this mindfulness? It's choosing which thoughts you have. So if you want to go into the fear spiral and the shame spiral, I mean, my recommendation is if you go there, think of how much is that of that is ego, right? And I hate to say that because
Mm-hmm.
people get really bent about the word ego. To me, ego is edging God out, right? So when we get into the like embarrassment, let's go with embarrassment, shame, like, oh
Mm-hmm.
my God, people know I got hit in the face, right? Does that make that's not all about me, right? Whatever
Mm-hmm.
that brings up in them is their own stuff. Why am I making it about me? Like, why am I worried what people think of me? Because that's our ego. God says we're perfect, right? The way we are. And
Mm-hmm.
our ego says, well, no, we need to be better. We could do better. We can innovate. Just let it go. Like let it be. And I think that's where slowing down is for me is I used to take I took on the whole world. I became the kindness lady,
Mm-hmm.
wanted to change the entire world and make it a nice place.
Yeah.
Now I'm a little bit more realistic. Like, okay, well, what I need to do is see where am I directing my energy? How can I be mindful about how I'm spending it? If I can spin out negative, can I counterbalance that with some positive spin out?
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm attaching myself to someone else's issues, anger, this one made me feel, that one made me feel. That's that has nothing to do with me. That's their stuff. Like I don't know how to like explain it except for that self-perseverance, boundaries, all this like
Well, you're talking about emotional intelligence.
yeah, that is that.
Yes.
Self-awareness and empathy, really. That's it. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, that's
Mm-hmm.
it. Again, I'll break it all down real simple. Mindfulness, control your thoughts, emotional intelligence, self-awareness, empathy. That's it. Think about yourself,
Mm-hmm.
think about others. Assume
Mm-hmm.
the best. All those things. I feel like mentally, I've never been mentally stronger. I gave up alcohol, I think a year and a half ago, like May of
Mm-hmm.
2024. So I don't need to escape anymore. And when you
Mm-hmm.
earlier about like, your situation, you were at your knees with your 6 months in pregnant and getting divorced. I'm here, I got my nose broken. Love can also be a drug of choice.
Oh my goodness,
Very
yes.
aware of that. And you can hit rock bottom when you realize you've sacrificed yourself to love someone
Mm-hmm.
else completely. You've abandoned your love of yourself to allow something else. We're not victims of other people. We're victims of
Mm-hmm.
what we allow. Is that
Mm-hmm.
we're victims of ourselves. We're victims of
Mm-hmm.
so that's a very powerful question, and I definitely relate with that. I'm very curious. We talked a little offline because I did my first retreat, and Arsemiris has been at this for a minute. What do you do? Design, talk me through before, during, and after. Like, what does the arc of the retreat look like?
Oh man. So with the retreats, it starts a year in advance of first looking for a specific space. So because at this point I'm doing a lot of I'm hosting my retreats at like resorts and whatnot, and just bigger spaces. It's also being very intentional about the spaces that I'm taking my clients to. So I'm never really looking for like the party space. I'm looking for more of the secluded spot next to the beach, very just like a boutique type of resort. From there, we're then looking into, we're praying. And when I say we, it's me and a group of other ladies that usually join me in these ventures. I do get other speakers to come in, and they also contribute into the creation of this space. We go into create, we interview who will be our potential guests. Why do I do this? Because not everyone is ready to be in a space like this. And Leigh and I were just talking about this. And when I say you, the audience that's listening, what you bring as a person into a space says so much about what the experience will be like, not just for yourself, but for everyone else. And so I formulated a couple of questions, also pertaining to mental health, to see where you're at, because sometimes you're just not ready. I've had people in the past where they just either they were going through severe depression or they were going through, let's say, grief, and they knew themselves, you know what, this is just not the season for me. I might bleed into the whole experience. Like, I'm just not ready yet. I the questions are so important and so crucial because it helps me understand where clients are. It helps them ask me questions if they have any, ruminating questions in their minds. But the questions that I ask, what I receive, I also customize the getaways, the topics, and what we're going to touch on out there. So it does make it unique for a participant because we're addressing their needs. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I love that you like really the intake becomes really important in shaping the strategy for the output.
Right, right. And that right there it's important because it's not just me sharing and having all these people come and speak on just random topics. No, we're talking about specific areas that there is actually a need. And so there is already a devotion when our clients come in and experience these getaways. And so there's a lot of beforehand work. And then there's also preparation throughout the months ahead before our getaway. So I'll give them like a coaching program where it's preparing them in a specific area. The most recent one, I always go back to attachment, is a huge one. I had the ladies take a small program on attachment, preparing them for who they were going to be in this space. Once we were there, the whole experience happened. Every day we're focusing on something different. And so we do mind, body, and spirit and image. So we try to focus every day on a specific area. One of my favorites this year, was our day of, it was just like our unwind spa day. That on its own, man, it was just mind blowing because a lot of women had powerful experience, whether it was in their spa, whether it was in their moment of stillness, and every day kind of builds up for the next. I'll say this. We visited a volcano crater prior to the spa day, and that experience was just mind blowing. We did like a mud bath, all in all. In essence, that's kind of like the breakdown that we have. Now, that last day, we have nothing on the agenda. Why? Because we want women to be able to just sit with all the experience. We do have moments towards the end of each day that we're out there where we give the women the opportunity to just reflect and share what they're experiencing every day. So moments of stillness is huge and it's hugely incorporated into our getaways. Kind of going back to your word mindfulness, that is something that we push on a lot, giving room and space for people to be mindful in the experience that they're having in these getaways.
Yeah, no, and I love that you put that much structure and thought behind it.
Yeah. There's a question here, and kind of it interjects with what we're talking about, like how we show up in spaces. Many of us put on masks to get through, like, let's say, our tough seasons. In this case, even in our getaways. What mask did your healing journey require you to remove?
The good corporate citizen mask, like I've been working in tech for so long, and I love that. Oh God, I interviewed somebody yesterday. She had the best expression. She said it was like having velvet handcuffs, right? Whereas it's uncomfortable, right? And I'm not knocking corporate for anyone who's in that realm because it was a big part of who I am for like a long time, but it
Mhm.
became disingenuine. When this project started, like, so during the kindly years, for anybody who doesn't know my backstory, I ran a nonprofit for over 10 years, which is currently like kind of on hiatus because after the incident, I had no interest in being the kindness lady. Facts, like just no interest in being the
Mhm.
kindness lady. I don't give when it's disingenuine. I will not give to
Right.
be performative, and not ever. You'll never catch me just, oh, and people who have thought I was doing all the acts of kindness for attention, please, like, I have no interest in that. That's performative. What I'm doing is I'm trying to
Mhm.
make the world a better place. I don't think I could do that when I'm in a bad space. So nonetheless, I
Mhm.
realized I felt like it wasn't purposeful enough. And that's why I launched Kindly, was so that I could have this like altruistic give back, get in the streets, do the things, make the world a better place, and realize that like, if a contract didn't go to the Gap, we weren't gonna like no one was gonna die on a table, right? It gave me that
Mhm.
perspective. It kept me grounded in my corporate to feel purposeful. So then
Mhm.
when this project came around, which was a hybrid of first Living Kindly was a collective on kindness, then I did collective on some celebrities, and then I was like, hey, what about the people in my community? Let's make them the celebrities. Like they're
Mhm.
me. And here we are. When my
Mhm.
purpose and my career aligned, then the corporate felt like a mask. I don't know, maybe it always did. Maybe it always did. Maybe it always felt like that's what I needed to do because, and I did well. I mean, I'm dumb and they hired me on Microsoft. Like, I'm literally like, why isn't the Zoom working? See, I just moved it. Oh my God, now I moved the Zoom. Oh my God, hold on. See what I mean? Like
I
this.
see you though. No
I
worries. I
don't
see
see
you and
you
I
now.
hear you.
There you are. No, but like literally, they hired me because I'm genuine. They hired me because I'm very honest in sales, which is really rare. I'm very, very direct and I just want the best for people. But that became also its own form of performance. It became
Mhm.
something that felt disingenuine. So that's a mask. In order to move forward with this series, me straddling corporate was somebody said, and these women, you guys have all built me. Somebody said to me the other day, you cannot have a successful plan A with a plan B. Like, I
Mhm.
get like multiple streams of income and I get diversifying assets. I understand that. But when you're really driven and really passionate, like you can't be all in on one thing and still have your foot in corporate just in case. So I think that
Mhm.
that was a really important mask to shed. Speaking of transformation, my question to you is tell me about one of the transformational experiences your clients have been through that you've been able to witness through following your passion.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. There's been so many. Right now, one that comes to mind was we actually had a getaway to Myrtle Beach, and we had one person who had been, she had done a lot of work with me and some of my programs that I offer. But I feel that there was something about the makeup of this space. And again, this is where I say it's so important. The women that go to these experiences, to these getaways, because you just never know how you're going to contribute to someone's breakthrough. This
Right.
woman was struggling with suicidal thoughts. She was, I mean, she had gone through so much, losing a child, not physically, but more of they detached her from her child. And in this space that we were in, we were at the beach and we had just finished praying and worshiping. The way she described it was, I just needed to yell.
Mm,
And at that moment, she just falls on her knees and just lashes out the biggest scream. And it was just so beautiful how all of us, like, we just gathered around her. You know, some prayed, some just held her. And the woman that she came out of that space, I mean, it was just mind blowing. This was a woman who really struggled with following her passion. And she's also in the mental health field. This woman evolved, and it's like something broke that day where she launched, and now she does workshops in the community. She is out there speaking on the news and just educating people on mental health, and
mm,
just really following her passion, her calling. But I believe that all the bricks that she was laying on the foundation, little by little, brought her to that space where it was like a final physical, it's like the somatic work, finally releasing that scream. For some people it's a scream that then allows her to open up into her calling. And I would say she's still evolving, she's still growing. um but I think that was probably one of the most transformational moments because it was so vivid and it was a reminder that in your healing journey, in your transformational journey, you're not going to go by yourself. You're going to have other women around you that are going to literally just probably hold you or just pray for you, and just hold space for you in that vulnerable, authentic time, you know? Um, what does slaying challenges look like for you? Not just overcoming them, but transforming through them.
I think, yeah, I mean, again, back to emotional intelligence, like empathy and self-awareness, like challenging situations generally either are about resources, financial, things
Mhm.
like that, right? Or interpersonal. Those are like literally the two sets of challenges most people face. Besides like war-torn countries and things, which obviously is like beyond, but for the majority of people, right? So really, in interpersonal conflict, one, how am I showing up? Do I need to participate? You cannot have a fight with one person, by the way. So
Yeah, yeah,
am I
yeah.
empathetically, again, mindfulness? I don't believe that being emotional is being powerful. I believe that being emotional, you lose your power. I think being grounded and having that strong sense of like no one else gets to decide how I act.
Mm.
I do not react, I act, right? And
Say
I've
that again. I think people need to hear that.
yeah, say it louder for the people in the back. I act, I do not react. So no one decides how I act, right? It's
Mm,
emotional puppeteer to me. The minute I want to come out of my face on something, I have to inspect why is that
mhm.
person that powerful to me right now?
Yes.
What in there is there for me to learn? Period. And forget the rest. Detach, 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 detach. Losing your attachment to outcome of what other people want, think, do, buy, feel, experience is the key to self-perseverance and peace. Let them, whatever you want to call it, Mel Robbins, God, whoever said it, first detach yourself. Your attachment to other people's outcomes is your own ego. Sorry, I said it, I meant it. Everyone is on their own path. If you really
That's
believe,
right.
if you are on a plane of being faith or enlightened, you know that each journey is exactly about that person. Your will cannot change a path that somebody is destined to be on. So going around acting like you're God judging everybody's choices, saying this one did this and I that one did that. One, it's a form of escapism to live outside yourself and other people. So the only two things you need to anchor on in any situation, self-awareness and empathy. Assume the best. And if you
Mhm,
don't assume the best, assume they're broken, assume they're flawed, assume they're projecting. And if there's shit in there you need to work on, go
mhm,
work on it. The shoe
mhm.
fits, wear it. If not, chuck it out the window. But that is like my like hard, fast advice is like just we all have the tools. None of us are victims. I had a therapist ask me once, how was I the victim? I'm like, I got punched in the face. How am I the victim? No, duh, I am the victim of, I'm the victim of bad decisions. I'm the victim of not being my own
Mhm.
best friend. I'm the victim of making
Yes.
poor choices. I'm the victim of believing in something, seeing red flags. I'm not
Yeah.
the victim of any of it. I made choices that landed me in a position. You can't say you don't know somebody has an anger problem before you get it in the face. You probably know, you know what I mean? So anyway, I think that that self-awareness. And for you, I mean, again, we're in the same toolkit. What two practices do you have that somebody could listening could try to strengthen their faith or their spirituality at home?
Yeah. I think I'm in a space where I no longer negotiate that little voice.
Hmm.
I muted it out for so many years, and it cost me it cost, I would say, it almost cost me my life, my mental peace, my spirituality. I would say that one. Follow that little voice. What it says, what it tells you to do, like just listen to it. It'll never steer you wrong. And whew, this will touch into the one we were just talking about. Being mindful of who you choose to be in your surrounding, in your circle, whether it is the people that you serve or even your closest friends. I had to learn a hard lesson on that one because I didn't hear my little voice from the day one. People show you who they are. We choose
Believe
to we choose to create like a we go based on potential. I think I'm not doing that. I'm going at this point. I'm at face value. Who you show up to be, that's who I'm running with. I'm no
Yeah.
longer going to create this story. And I think that that's really important because we see it. And we talked about it a little bit, right? You'll see how people just begin to fall off and shade away in your journey as you continue to evolve and grow. They were there for a reason. But I think as they move and we get upset with ourselves, we knew from day one that this
Yeah.
probably was not a person that we should have been around with. We had no business. We've heard it. We just decided to ignore. So I would say those two.
Yeah, you can't heal the world sometimes. Like you have to let people be who they are. Well, we are going to wrap one question short for me, but that's okay. You guys got enough of me today. You need to come back so I can ask you a bonus question on another episode. But I tell the people how to find you, and you're just a doll, a gem, like such a bright light in
Thank
this world.
you.
Keep on shining it. Let people in. Let keep doing God's work, and like it's needed and appreciated. And I certainly want to have you back to talk more. But tell them in the meantime how to find you.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, Coach Arsemiris, even on LinkedIn. We're on all platforms. Yeah.
Same, same. Yeah. And definitely like follow Slay the USA, follow her journey, book a
Yeah.
retreat, like book a retreat. We're talking about like total life transformation. And what I will say, some of the most interesting women I find invest in themselves. They do. They
Yes.
get the coach, they go on the retreat, they do the book,
Mhm.
they say yes to things that feel like it's a love letter to themselves, anything that feels like
Mhm.
because again, the way that you heal the parts
Yeah.
of yourself that abandon yourself for whatever escapism, others, resources, however you abandon yourself, like you can come home to that by loving yourself. And I know we talk about self-care, but when you invest in yourself, I took the trip to Paris anyway. Like when you invest in yourself
Mhm.
and you say, you know what, I'm worth it by myself. I don't need anybody but me, but I'm going to go do the work and I'm going to get the coach and I'm going to heal and I'm going to identify what's my part and I'm going to allow others to
Right.
be who they are. And that's all we can do. But thank you
Mhm.
again for being on the show. You're terrific. Happy. Well, I
Thank
don't know if
you.
it's going to air on a Sunday or it's Monday now. It's Labor Day.
It's
It's not
Monday.
going to air on Labor Day, but yeah, thanks for hopping on with me. And I will see you soon.
Thank you. Have a good one, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.